Join the conversation with the Morning Majlis, Pulse 95.
Well, President Joe Biden has spoken out on the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban. He actually had to interrupt his stay at Camp David to return to the White House to actually give a speech to the United States and the world. And what did he say in the speech? I'm just kidding.
Well, the speech came out yesterday at midnight, and literally it sounded like blaming the others. Saying it's not my fault.
He didn't see it coming.
Yeah, the thing is...
I felt like he was kind of being caught badly off guard.
Well, the way he spoke yesterday was quite assertive.
Yeah.
It was a well-delivered speech. He seemed in control. Mm-hmm. He didn't seem like a person, which in reality was that he just came back from a little bit of a break at Camp David just to deliver that speech to go back on his break. He didn't look unprepared. He wanted to stand by his decision that the withdrawal was agreed on before, and we just had to do it. And the big taker from that, what I found as my little headline, was the fact when he said that our mission in Afghanistan was never nation building.
It was to avoid.
It was to avoid an attack on American soil.
Yeah.
But what were you doing there for 20 years? You were building.
It doesn't make
a nation.
sense.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And the good thing, and the strange thing was that Biden did not take any questions from the press. We saw another press conference of U.S. military personnel and the person responsible for the special immigration visas. They refused to take certain questions, which was, did you plan this? Did you plan for such an event that the takeover would be a matter of 72 hours as opposed to the 90 days that you had initially said? So there was no apology from Biden. There was nothing of that sort. Even the former President George W. Bush has spoken out. They're saying their hearts are heavy after watching the tragic events unfolding in Afghanistan. So, but let's have a look at what Joe Biden had specifically said yesterday. Well, in fact, this morning, if we were to consider the UAE time. And this is what the POTUS had to say.
I stand squarely behind my decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there was never a good time to withdraw U.S. forces. That's why we're still there. We were clear-eyed about the risks. We planned for every contingency, but I always promised the American people that I would be straight with you. The truth is, this did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated. So what's happened? Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country. The Afghan military collapsed, sometime without trying to fight. If anything, the developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves. We spent over $1 trillion. We trained and equipped an Afghan military force of some 300,000 strong, incredibly well equipped, a force larger in size than the militaries of many of our NATO allies. We gave them every tool they could need. We paid their salaries, provided for the maintenance of their Air Force, something the Taliban doesn't have. Taliban does not have an Air Force. We provided close air support. We gave them every chance to determine their own future. We could not provide them was the will to fight for that future.
A powerful speech, if you think about it.
That's basically him defending his decision to withdraw all U.S. troops from Afghanistan, even after the Taliban forces, they took Kabul, and the world saw those images of desperate Afghans attempting to flee the country. Not only he's defending his decision, of course, administration officials, they have continued to defend his strategy in Afghanistan as well, even in the face of rebukes from Democrats and Republicans over how the the troop withdrawal has been executed. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that this morning, what the president kept saying over and over again is that it was not inevitable Kabul would fall, and it was not inevitable. There was the capacity to stand up and resist, and that capacity didn't happen.
Well, that's what Biden's speech was. I provided them everything.
Yeah.
And his bottom line was that I do not want to be the precedent where I pass things down to the fifth precedent. He clearly stated that 4 precedents have been involved with this situation, and we just had to pull out. The pace of which is also a big question mark. We have to kind of agree with Biden, saying if there were 300,000 troops, well prepared, well equipped, why was the administration in Kabul not able to defend themselves? You know, it's very easy to look. We're not claiming that we're experts over here. I personally am an international relations graduate. I still do not consider myself qualified enough to comment and say this is the case. It's very easy to pinpoint and blame the others, if you think about it. The local population would like to blame their neighbors and would say that maybe we were let down by the Western powers like America. But an American administration, or Biden administration in particular, would say, look, enough was enough. We didn't want to lose more troops. It's your issue. But you have to look within your own homes as well, within your own scenario, saying, why wasn't the military well equipped or well trained or willing to fight and resist should they not be accepting of the eventual takeover of the Taliban that we've seen at the moment? So that's on the political front. On the social front, of course, there's a lot of concerns about what the governance is going to be like. Will the women be allowed to go to schools? Will the women be allowed to go to work? Those are the questions that will still affect all of us as individuals who are observing this.
That's right, and the general sentiment of his words and his speech, basically, is, as you said, Abdelkarimi, he is basically placing the blame elsewhere. He's placing it on the Afghan military for falling apart. He's placing it even on former President Donald Trump for agreeing to a deal with the Taliban, and also his predecessors for expanding a mission in a country without any consideration of how to end it. And he also lashed out sharply at Ghani, saying that the Afghan leader flatly refused Biden's advice on seeking a political settlement with the Taliban, and he was wrong on the strength of the Afghan military. He did confess that I will be criticized for what I've done, for my decision, and I would rather take all that criticism than pass this decision onto another president of the United States.
No, there's a very valid point over there, really valid point, especially when it came to accepting that he will be criticized. He's not standing by saying, look, whatever I did was perfectly right and everyone should be happy about it. He knows that it's going to be debated, it's going to be discussed. Well, it's never a clear-cut answer here. There's no specific way of saying, okay, this should have been done. The fact is, the political elite that were running the country for 2 decades should have realized that, okay, there is a political force out there there are militants, but they're emerging as a political force once again. There's a way of negotiating, but instead they were adamant that they do not want to negotiate with them at all. And what the situation at the moment in Afghanistan is a bit of a shame, but we can only hope that things are a little bit better and improve for the Afghan population, and there is no drastic impact on them as a result of the recent developments. Stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We'll continue the discussions later on in the program. Up next, we shift our focus to the world of quantum computers and why the Middle East is celebrating, especially with the nation's capital, Abu Dhabi. Stay with us. This is The Morning Majlis, only on Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
Between local lines. Notes from the Emirate.
Well, emphasizing the formative role of entrepreneurship in building and sustaining competitive economies, the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Center, Shira, has definitely fostered innovation and growth opportunities for its thriving community of entrepreneurs through its series of programs, initiatives, and also collaborations, including the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival that we also, as the Morning Majlis team and Pulse 95, we have taken part in it. Now, commenting on the entity's supportive ecosystem and world-class opportunities, Shira beneficiary Sadiq Farid, the co-founder of Smart Crowd, which is the MENA region's first regulated digital real estate platform, said that our participation in the debut edition of the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival back in 2017, it provided our business with validation and exposure that attracted the attention of VCs and also potential partners. Shira''s $100,000 grant, as well as the programs we participated in, is what has made our entrepreneurship journey possible. Now, we have seen more than 17,800 founders and ecosystem players. They have attained similar benefits through their participation in Shira events, delivering the know-how integral to sustained entrepreneurial success. And it's since its inception, basically, Shira has provided more than 3,000 hours of mentoring in collaboration with diverse ecosystem stakeholders. And accordingly, Shira has also connected entrepreneurs to investors and customers for guidance and resources to commercialize ideas, accelerate growth, and also compete internationally.
It's very emotional because just to think about it, it only feels like yesterday when Shira had announced this grant, when Shira had emerged to become this platform for startups and for SMEs to flourish, particularly the tech ones, and this whole flexi-desk style of an operation, the Silicon Valley type of an approach, which was very new to this part of the world 5 years ago, to finally have this and to look at the stats they've sent us through, that 114 startups have been supported by Shira during the past 5 years. They've created 1,300 jobs and registered a 65% survival rate. It's amazing. And driving this diversification of the UAE's economy, the total revenue by Shira-supported startups in the past 5 years has been $130 million, who have collectively raised $87 million in capital, and about 48% of Shira-supported startups are led by females. Now, earlier in the break, we asked you, what does impact mean to you? We're going to play a video and to talk about what impact means to some of the Shira startup leaders and even their entrepreneurs and partners involved with them. This is what they had to say.
Impact is reducing at least 5% of the annual $3.9 billion of untouched food and beverage waste that are dumped into landfills post-flights in the aviation industry.
Impact to me is seeing 80% of recyclables directed away from the landfill.
Impact to us looks like teaching 60,000 students across 100 schools in the next 2 years. We are already a sixth of the way there.
Impact for us is helping families save hundreds of hours in grocery shopping so they can spend more quality time together, thousands of dirhams in their annual budget, and making grocery shopping more fun.
Impact to me looks like consolidating efforts to drive women's economic inclusion in MENA from the current 20% to 30% by 2030, and that's a floor, not a ceiling.
Impact to me is a cultural shift where we recognize the value of creativity through our educational system, where we start enabling our future generations to become creative leaders in our societies.
Providing easy payment solutions for small business owners to grow even faster.
Impact to me means improving the learning outcomes and literacy rates of 160,000 students across the Arab world.
Impact to me is a happier, engaged, and productive workforce.
Yes, the rise of an ecosystem. That's 5 years of creating impact. That just reveals that Shiraa's founder-focused ecosystem, responsive and impact-driven strategy has supported 114 startups over the past 5 years. It generated about $130 million in revenue and raised investments worth $87 million as well. It also offers insights into Shiraa's emergence as a key pillar of the UAE's ecosystem, where it has impacted a community of over 17,000 change makers across sectors. That's placing Sharjah strongly on the global startup map. And of course, we have to give the thanks to the backbone of Shiraa, let's just say, of Shiraa's growing community of entrepreneurs and change makers. That is the CEO of Shiraa, Her Excellency Najla Al-Midfa, who definitely helped those entrepreneurs in navigating also the unprecedented challenges of the pandemic as well last year, and also guided them, helped guide them through their entrepreneurial journey.
Certainly is something that we're very proud of, and we really love to celebrate the fine achievements of the organisation, especially when they came up with the $1 million Startup Solidarity Fund in May last year to help support those startups develop the solutions to the world's most pressing problems. And the big challenge, of course, was the survival of small and medium-sized businesses during such a challenging period of the pandemic. So I'll stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We'll celebrate more of Sharjah's achievements right after a bit of a break. Up next, we talk to you about Sharjah's Research, Technology and Innovation Park, and why it's worth celebrating, and how they are continuing to solidify Sharjah's position as a regional hub for startups. This is the Morning Majlis, only on Pulse 95.
Join the conversation with the Morning Majlis, Pulse 95.
Pfizer. Well, yesterday, they have submitted early-stage clinical trial to the FDA as part of their U.S. application seeking authorization of a COVID-19 vaccine booster for everyone aged 16 and above, not just people with weak immune systems. So, in a phase 1 trial, a booster dose of the vaccine generated significantly higher neutralizing antibodies against the original coronavirus strain, as well as the beta and also the delta variants. That's what the company has said in this phase 1 trial. So the participants in this trial, they received a third shot of the 2-dose vaccine about 8 to 9 months after receiving their second shot. And the data that they said, that the data they have seen to date, it suggests that a third dose of their vaccine, it basically elicits antibody levels that significantly exceed those seen after the 2-dose primary schedule. So they are saying that they are pleased to submit these data to the FDA as they continue working together to address the evolving challenges of this pandemic. So the company, they said that late-stage trial results evaluating the third dose, they're expected shortly, and it will also be submitted to the FDA and other regulatory authorities worldwide as well.
Yeah, the company said that the late-stage trial results evaluating the third dose are expected shortly, and they'll be submitted to the FDA and other regulatory bodies across the globe. But looking at the announcement here in the United Arab Emirates, and a lot of you have been asking this question as well, to say, when can I take it? Well, according to a statement from Dr. Farida Al-Husani, who has been the spokeswoman for the Ministry of Health and Prevention ever since the pandemic had taken place, they're saying that after 6 months of receiving your second dose of the vaccine, you can opt to go for your booster shot. What they say is that it is critical to provide vaccines to control the pandemic, including the booster shots given after the main doses to stimulate immunity. Now, a lot of you have actually gone on and done the antibody tests, and it all depends on person to person and how their bodies have reacted. Even if you've taken the Sinopharm vaccine, you can opt to go for a booster shot of the Pfizer vaccine. That's the statement that's come out from the United Arab Emirates' Ministry of Health, saying it's okay to go for the Pfizer shot, but make sure that it takes place 6 months after your second dose. Now, to what extent is the world going to normalize the booster shot is going to be seen, particularly after this one, because federal health officials in America aren't recommending booster doses for the general public at this time. But what the White House Chief Medical Advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, has said that everyone will likely need a booster shot at some point. COVID vaccine makers, including Pfizer and Moderna, have repeatedly contended that everyone will eventually need a booster shot and potentially extra doses every year, just like for the seasonal flu. Now, if you can look at it with two lenses and two sides of the coin here. One side of the argument would say that Pfizer and BioNTech are basically saying, okay, we're done with we were done with the 2 doses of the public. Let's find a way of making more money. Okay, release a press statement saying that everyone needs a booster shot. So that guarantees another purchase of the vaccines. One side of the argument looks at that. The other says, look, we're still technically researching. We're still trying to get everyone vaccinated. We want safety. We want increased immunity, because if we don't do that, the variants are going to change. They'll come up with new variants, and it will be a big challenge for us to completely get rid of the pandemic. So it is understandable in terms of what's happening, but the bottom line is that whenever you do go traveling, for example, Rania pointed out that a lot of people from this part of the world are in Europe.
Yeah.
When you go to Europe, when you apply for your visas or wherever, they clearly state that your second dose, you qualify to be fully vaccinated 14 days after your second dose. Mm-hmm. And then there's another footnote that says, but the second dose should not exceed more than 6 months. So
Right.
what happens after you're done with your 6 months? You're not allowed to travel? Is that a question? That's one thing. That's still a grey area that remains unanswered.
I think they're going to give you a grace period of 30 days to get the booster.
That's in the UAE.
The UAE, yeah.
But if you're traveling abroad, who recognize that after your second dose of the vaccine, you're immune for 6 months, but after that, you're no longer immune. Does that mean that your vaccine certificate disqualifies? That's the big question, isn't it?
I think that's going to be the case.
It should be the case, and it would be the case. To what extent is a booster shot going to change that scenario? So there's a lot of questions that people would still be having. The reason why it's not been discussed at a greater length is because in European countries, in particular Portugal, vaccination rates are about 70%. Greece was 50%. Switzerland was also just above 50%. So they've got a while till their people are fully vaccinated. But here in the UAE, thanks to the wonderful work that our health sector has done, there's a good chunk of people who have passed the second dose, or 6 months of the second dose. Now they are on the lookout for the booster shots. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
Yep, definitely. But looking back home here, what's happening here is as part of the latest initiative to facilitate the safe return to school, because that's important because it's on the horizon right now. We're fastly approaching September, so a lot of students are going back to school for the new academic year again, which begins in September. So now in Abu Dhabi, there are walk-in COVID-19 vaccination centers. They have been opened for students aged 12 and above, for teachers and administrative staff to get vaccinated. And it's the latest initiative, again, to facilitate the safe return to school for the new academic year. So they have rolled out new vaccination centers. And my own niece actually just got vaccinated here in the Emirate of Sharjah as well. And she said that they really did facilitate her process once they knew that she was trying to get the Pfizer vaccine. And in fact, she got the Pfizer vaccine, and she said that it took her literally 4 minutes.
Wow. And it was administered.
It was a walk-in.
Administered here in Sharjah?
Yes.
Where did she go?
I did not ask her in particular because she doesn't know the play, the center itself, but she said that it was in Sharjah, and once they knew that she was like she's 14.
Okay.
So they said, okay, we're gonna facilitate the process for you because she's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So she said it literally took 4 minutes.
That's amazing to
And
see.
then I said, did you feel anything after the vaccine? She said, just a little bit of a headache. That's it.
Okay.
So she was fine for the next 2 days.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So that's the scenario at the moment. People are getting their vaccines done at walk-in clinics, which is always good. And of course, if you are a resident of other Emirates, you've got the health authorities of the individual Emirates, such as Dubai and Abu Dhabi, that are administering the doses and booking the appointments via the applications or even WhatsApp. Stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We'll let you take a bit of a breather, enjoy some musical entertainment, and then we'll talk to you a little bit more about Sharjah Museum Authority and how they've been playing and the role they're playing in building cultural institutions. This is the Morning Majlis, only on Pulse 95.
Stay fit. Stay fit. Stay fit.
Staying fit financially because Barcelona had a huge bill to pay their stars, and I'm just trying to. I did some calculations earlier. It's Messi's.
It's all about calculations for you,
of course, because Messi's salary was about just above 70 million euros a year at Barcelona.
Holy moly!
Which was about 6 million euros a month.
Oof.
Not bad. 6 million euros, roughly about 18 million.
He didn't go to
dirham.
space yet?
Didn't go to space. He could easily buy tickets, yeah. I mean, you were talking about space. I literally talked about how many shawarmas he could buy in Switzerland.
Come on, man. You got to think outside the box.
Come on, let's say, Switzerland's a very expensive place for food, right? In Europe. And across the world. Your shawarma, an average shawarma would cost you about 10 euros, 60 dirham for a shawarma, for example. It'd be ridiculous.
Think outside of that diameter. Come on, man.
Okay, fine dining restaurants, hotel stays. You could do a
No,
lot.
I'm talking about space here. Come on. It's Messi we're talking about.
Buying a train ticket, 50 euros. It's so cheap for him. All
right.
Probably didn't need train tickets. He had a car. Imagine petrol.
I think Barcelona will need that shawarma.
Oh, yes.
After his departure.
Well, looking at the bills at the moment, they revealed that they're in a massive debt at the moment.
See, that's what I'm telling you. They're the ones that need the shawarma, not him.
Well, all the shawarmas
and the
purchased by him.
cheap bus tickets and all of that, and the train tickets.
Yeah.
Well, you know who spoke out? Barcelona's president, Joan Laporta. He gave a lengthy press conference yesterday in which he mainly discussed Barcelona's finances, but he also gave an explanation regarding Lionel Messi's departure from the club. And he did speak for the first time since Messi's move to PSG. He tried to focus on the future, and he emphasized the need to turn the page, basically. He's like, come on, that's it. He's gone. Khalas, get over it, right? And he did say that I think it has been a successful relationship with Messi that has lasted many years, and in the end, it just deteriorated. That's what he revealed. And he said that his presentation felt strange. Like all Barcelona fans, I would have preferred to see him at Barcelona, but we have made the right decision because Barcelona is above everything. Oof. Harsh words. And he did say that I wish him all the best. I like to see him happy. He deserves it. Now maybe we will be rivals, and as rivals, we have to deal with him. That's what he said. Now, did the negotiations end well between them? Now, according to Laporta, he said that I have seen some statements from Messi very much in line with what we have explained, and the statements from both sides were along the same lines. But if we thought it could be done, it was because we only knew the figures from the previous board. We presented La Liga with losses of 89 million euros that allowed us to do our best. So when we see that La Liga gave us expectations, we were optimistic. right? But what we see in return is that we realize that it can't be done despite the fact that we had shaken hands with Messi. Now, Leo also had his time. That's what Laporta is saying. But we saw that it could not happen despite the fact that the player made many efforts to fit his contract into the salary cap. But when we saw the magnitude of the financial disaster, we saw that it could not be done. So both parties would have liked a different ending, but we have to accept that the idea we had at the beginning could not be fulfilled. One of the most beautiful stories in football, which normally it does not last so long, has ended. The last words from him he said, "I prefer to remember the good moments and not the bad ones." We are excited about the team, and Leo looks happy in PSG.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to consider, and you can understand that, after all, it's a business in the end.
Exactly.
I mean, no matter how much you cry or how much you're upset about Messi leaving Barcelona, the fact is that they just couldn't afford him at all. But the figures at the moment, you've also got to understand for the football clubs, because they do rely a lot on ticket revenues. They do rely
and that's
a lot
gone.
Yeah,
half of it is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got to feel for them as well.
True.
And then the F&B they buy at the stadiums, the clothing, the merchandise, the
Telling
flags.
you, man, the pandemic.
Tough
Look what it's done.
Tough times for everyone indeed. With that business mindset, let's move on towards the business headlines of the day, courtesy of Aisha Al-Mazmi, and then the Majlis shall return right after that. We'll conclude the discussions with more businessy type of a discussion, because the Hyatt brand is looking at buying a US hospitality group, and then do fonts of social media websites bother you? Well, for Twitter, it certainly did. We'll get back to you on that. Stay with us. This is The Morning Majlis, only on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of The Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.
Pulse.